After the attacks in Paris, the war on terror is heating up again. And we've just learned something new about the terrorists' devious tactics.
Counterterrorism officials tell NBC News that ISIS recently launched a 24-hour help desk manned by a half-dozen senior operatives.
ISIS has a helpline? For terrorists. This is insane. And also, a great opportunity for us. Because you see, all we need to do now is make sure that none of their attacks ever work again. And all we need to do is secretly replace their help desk operators with our guys. Imagine what we could do if we could infiltrate the system. Yeah, we could just be there like, yes, I'm sorry you're having trouble with your suicide vest. Yes, are you alone at home by yourself? Good. Well, have you tried turning it off and back on again? Hello? Hello? Next caller. But of course, getting rid of ISIS is not that simple, which is why President Obama has been facing some really tough questions.
I think a lot of Americans have this frustration that they see that the United States has the greatest military in the world. It has the backing of nearly every other country in the world when it comes to taking on ISIS. And I guess the question is, and if you'll forgive the language, is why can't we take out these bastards?
First of all, kudos to the president for only cussing that journalist out in his head. And secondly, CNN's Jim Acosta, I'm glad you apologized for that potty mouth of yours. Yeah, I gotta apologize for this, bastards. Whoa! Somebody's been hanging out with his older cousin. Whoa! Hey, guys, are we gonna get these ISIS knuckleheads or what? Come on, they're a bunch of jerkwads. I'm telling the bird brains won't know what's coming. We gotta give these ISIS schmucks the old ring-a-ding-ding. Who are you? You know, luckily, the president responded as if the question was actually coming from an adult.
We are going to continue to pursue the strategy that has the best chance of working, even though it does not offer the satisfaction, I guess, of a neat headline or an immediate resolution.
I'm sorry, President Obama. This non-immediate resolution stuff is just not going to cut it. These are Americans you're talking to. The people who spend millions of dollars a year on diet pills that'll make you lose 50 pounds in 5 days. These are the inventors of the TV dinner. Americans won't even gram unless it's Insta. But after such a tragedy, I understand that impulse that we just want to get revenge. You know, and I get it. I get it now. That's anger. And that's one of the stages of grief that most people go through if they're normal. But as we've seen in the last few days, not everyone is normal. And most of them are running for office. You see, for some politicians, they're not limited to the regular 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, anger, and the Department of Commerce. For example, politician grieving stage 1. Use the tragedy as an excuse to say what you would have said anyway.
You can say what you want, but if they had guns, if our people had guns, if they were allowed to carry, it would have been a much, much different situation.
What? Why is your answer always more guns? It's like saying, let's dig our way out of this hole with more holes. Sorry the last Transformers movie sucked. Here, we'll fix it with another one. It doesn't work that way. And once you've worked through the first, then you can move to the next stage of political grief. Break out the Nazi comparisons.
Secretary Clinton there did not want to use the words radical Islam. Your response?
I think I don't understand it. That would be like saying we weren't at war with Nazis because we were afraid to offend some Germans who may have been members of the Nazi Party but weren't violent themselves.
That's not exactly the same thing. You see, because Islam is a religion. It is open for violent interpretation, and it's open for peaceful interpretation. Just like how Christianity can encompass both the Spanish Inquisition and The little old lady in church who keeps talking to you about her cat's diabetes medicine. So basically, torture either way. But still, Marco Rubio, to say non-radical Muslims are the same as non-violent Nazis is not quite correct. Because you see, the Nazis pretty much knew what they were getting in for. It's not like the vast majority of Nazis were in it for non-fascist reasons. I mean, yeah, look, you know, I'm all for the boots and the rallies, but the violent stuff, totally not cool, yeah? You see, what's happening here is some Democrats, for instance, Hillary Clinton, think it's unwise to use the term radical Islam to describe these terrorists. Now, because of that, some Republicans, for instance, most of them, are accusing Democrats of not genuinely wanting to defeat ISIS.
They're more interested in protecting the image of Islam than they are in protecting Americans. Tucker, if these were militant Methodists, extreme Episcopalians, bad boy Baptists, do you think we would be afraid to say that?
No, we would not be afraid to say that. Because Bad Boy Baptists is an awful name for a terrorist group. But a great name for your Christian soul rock one-man bass only album. Yeah. My personal favorite, track 3, Blessed Are the Funky. But according to Mike Huckabee, we need to recognize our desperate situation.
The ones who are ready to cut our heads off, the ones that are blowing up people in Paris and all over the world, it just happens that they're all radical Muslims. We better wake up and smell the falafel.
Now, there are a few things wrong with that statement. Number 1, falafel is not a breakfast food. Number 2, it doesn't really smell like anything. And number 3, the racism. I really should have led with the racism. I know. Then there's the final stage of political grief. You focused on how to handle the tide of refugees fleeing Syria and ISIS. This stage is known as just say something really bad crazy.
If we displace people who are used to a desert climate, living in the Middle East, speaking a language that is not common to America, and essentially living in a culture and amidst a religion that is not that common here, we really are creating a disruption. If we're serious about wanting to protect them, then let's do it in a climate with a language, with the culture, and with a religion they're more comfortable with.
You know, Mike Huckabee makes a good point. Can you imagine if people started coming to America from all over the world, bringing their different languages, cultures, and religions, mixing and changing the culture that's already here until it becomes something totally new? What kind of country would this be? But you know what, Mike Huckabee, I understand you as someone whose family has been here for generations, as I guess a Native American. You can say, I can see why this idea would frighten you.